Let's roll. This is Countercharge, your podcast for ranks, flanks, and kings of war. Join your hosts as they delve into the world of Panithor and bring you worldwide coverage of all things Kings of War.
Welcome to Countercharge. This is Donny.
And I'm Ruffin. And that dulcet tone you're hearing is Mr. Donny Krosch out of northern Minnesota. And when I say northern, it doesn't get much more northern. I think if you go any more north than you guys, you're in Canada, right?
Yeah, we're a little over 2.5 hours from the border. So yeah, we're about as far north as you can get. In fact, I think I might be the northernmost Kings War player in Minnesota now that I've moved into the new house north of the Hebbigs.
And you were just lamenting, or maybe you're not lamenting, maybe you enjoy it, the joys of living in northern Minnesota in the wintertime. One of those joys is snow blowing and shoveling your driveway.
Yeah, especially with the new house. We're kind of on the country now, so I got almost a quarter mile, like 3/8 of a mile, or not 3/8 of a mile, a little less than quarter of a mile, like long driveway. So yeah, I just spent like 2 hours with the 4-foot snowblower blowing that.
Well, I'm assuming you have to have like the biggest, heaviest, most powerful snowblower known to man. Pretty
big, yeah. It's a lawn tractor with a 4-foot wide snowblower front on it. So yeah, like John Deere 534 lawn tractor. So not like a full blown tractor, but definitely a big riding lawnmower with a snowblower on the front.
Much bigger than anything we would use residentially in Michigan. So what have you been up to? I haven't chatted with you in a long time, and obviously we're past the release of 4th edition, so maybe we start there. What have you been doing with 4th edition? Are you getting a lot of games in?
Yeah, I've gotten a bunch of games in. I'm pretty close to, I think I must be close to 10 games in now with a bunch of different factions. I've been playing mostly Twilightkin, but a fair amount of Goblins and some Basileans as well so far. So we've been doing a lot of 23 and 2,500 points to get ready for Adepticon, as well as trying the slightly larger point level, which I kind of like from the more elite armies like Basileans and Twilightkin. That extra couple hundred points, I feel like, gets you a little bit extra drop wise. So that's been nice.
So you're kind of feeling you really like the 2,500 versus the 2,300 in 4th edition?
Yeah, so far. I mean, it would be interesting with Adepticon at 23 and getting some more games in at 23. I'm sort of feeling like that might end up becoming kind of the meta, but I do want to, like with my one day is going to be at 2,500 points and Lady Blake's going to be 2,500 points. So kind of get some trying for the 2,500 at least early in the meta, and I guess we'll see what the community ends up landing on, but it's starting to look like more and more people are drifting towards 23, although there's a lot of people out there doing 25, but 23 does seem like it's getting to be a little more popular again.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in transition. I think we're sort of feeling it out. We got different events at different levels, and I think it'll sort itself out. But what's been the takeaway for you for 4th edition? Anything jump out at you with the games you've been getting in?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sticky combat and the new movement definitely makes the game feel a little different. Like, it's still obviously Kings of War, and it's still kind of that base game, but the movement and the combat are definitely have changed up the meta a fair amount, and shooting is probably not quite as dead as advertised as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I kind of felt that right for the jump playing Dylan, a Salamander player here, and it's only gotten more oppressive as people have figured out the Commandants are broke. But yeah, the shooting is certainly a thing. For me, it feels like the game is more accessible. They're trying to make it so that maybe newer players are having a faster pathway to getting into the game. That being said, man, I'm still wrapping my head around some of the movement changes. The way you move through other units that are charging at the same time. There's just a few things that, like, I'll get there eventually, but it blows my brain a little bit, right? Just especially with the reform. But I've been enjoying it. You know what? I still have 3.5 on the brain, and I just went to a tournament recently. Blue City Brawl is a doubles event at 1250 apiece, so 2,500 points. And several times where I'm just like, I don't understand what we're doing here. Like in terms of how do we solve this issue, this puzzle, right? And it's, we had to get, the book out and, okay. So because all of us were just thinking, or at least I was thinking with a 3.5 mindset, and you really cannot play the game. You will not successfully play the game using the same tactics that you used in 3.5. It's a really different game. It's really easy to get into combat, and it's impossible to get out of combat, right? For the most part, there is the withdraw, but yeah. So in terms of the armies you've been playing, is there any of the armies that you've been playing jump out as like, wow, this seems like a very powerful army, or vice versa, where, man, this army is not very good under 4th edition?
I had to totally redo my Twilight Ken from because I had kind of started the slow grow with Countercharge a while back before the house build started, and the first slow grower I actually dropped out of because it didn't quite kind of ran into the whole house thing. So I had to build all the re-unlocking stuff with that. And I really think Basileia that I've been playing has been helped out a lot in 4th edition. I really like how they're going. The Twilight Kin definitely seem like they have a fun, interesting build, but to some extent it just seems like not like doing the same things as Basileia with different tools. And right now, I think there's a unit strength problem with goblins and Ratkin. I actually kind of hope that they change unit strength back to the 3-5 unit strength standards, because I think right now Rabble having the same unit strength as Paladin Foot Guard and Twilight Kin Impalers is not balanced, and it's not it's kind of an issue right now. Whereas if Rabble were back to unit strength 2, which they are now, but then we put the Foot Guard and the Impalers and those sorts of things back up to 3, I think that potentially solves a lot of those issues. But I mean, right now we've got 25 drop goblin lists that are starting to pop up that are 46, 50 unit strength. And it seems like a lot of unit strength to mow through that could potentially be fixed a little bit if we just gave those elite armies a little bit of that unit strength back.
Yeah, I think there is an advantage in certain scenarios where unit strength is king. And yeah, when you have cheap 2-point unit strength or 3-point unit strength units, it's problematic. I mean, I have been playing goblins as well, but I must not be as good as you are, because I'm struggling a bit because, well, I can put a lot of unit strength down. I don't kill much stuff, right? Because I've tried the Luggets, and I've tried mincer mobs, and the mincer mobs are fine, but they're so wide, and they're only speed 5, so they end up getting charged. And then, oh, by the way, I rely on Thunder Charge, but since I'm not charging, I don't get Thunder Charge. So I have not had the best luck. And I think maybe, is there a particular build with the goblins that you're finding more effective?
I'm doing actually a heavy shooting build right now, which is way less attrition power than it was in 3.5. But with all that unit strength, basically you use your shooting power to eliminate strategic stuff, and then you just basically bury them in unit strength after wiping out their most important units. I mean, because now you can bring 4 War Trombones. You can bring Alchemist Curse 4, which goblins could never bring before. And then stacked with shooting, being able to just take Blood Boil in the Goblin army now gives you a lot of shooting damage to be able to take down units. I mean, I've taken down Orc Legions where you put 18, 20 shooting wounds on them, and then you get to roll a 20 dice Blood Boil and pick up a Legion in 1 turn of shooting is still a thing. You have to devastate it now, so it requires more stuff. So you're not killing as much as you were in 3.5, but you've got so much unit strength that if you take out a couple of their hammers or their big anvil that's in the way, you can jam multiple units of Rabble up in there, and it's hard to deal with.
I find you just don't lose units as fast in the beginning of the game, but maybe by turn 3 or 4, I'm back to right where, because by that point they've damaged enough stuff that now they're devastating units, and and to your point, if you really focus fire, you can take stuff off even on turn 1 if you put the effort in. I mean, you're right. It does require you to get it past the devastated point. And some of those legions or even hordes have big nerve, but it's still doable. Are you so you're a 4 trombone guy, 4 whiz guy? Are you taking the bangets and the wingets, or what's doing the damage for your shooting in the goblin list?
Right now it's 4 trombones, the Alchemist Curse Caster, Blood Boil Caster, and then 3 bangets. And then I've got a Flaget with Diadem of Dragonkind, and then a Goblin King, because I needed some inspiring in there, so having the 2 very inspiring sources, and then the Bang It with the inspiring talisman has been working pretty well for that. But then it's the Bangets are back. They don't have shattering, but they're back into their old blast thing that they were doing, and especially if they don't move, they're
hitting on threes.
Pretty.
They're pretty powerful,
pretty effective. And again, you have to put that extra stuff in there because you're devastating stuff, but even like wavering stuff, and then with all the rabble and stuff, it can be pretty nasty to clog things up. And then with like the Twilight Kin, running with the big unlocking hordes with either the ensnarers or the crushing guys, and then impalers, and just being, the old grind game, like in Basileans, doing the same things with Paladin, Footguard, and Ogres, and all that stuff has been really effective in my my game so far, with a lot of those different combos in there. It's getting used to like when stuff is going to die is definitely, it dies at different times, like you were saying that it kind of does in the last edition.
Yeah. One question I got to ask is, I'm still struggling with that balance between hordes and regiments. Where are you falling? I mean, on the regiment side, you can get potentially more units, and that's more unlocking, right? But then flip side, you can take hordes where you're buying unit strength at a discount. So is it a mix for you? Or with the goblins, let's ask, like, are you taking mostly regiments, or are you taking mostly hordes? Where are you falling?
The goblins, it's mostly regiments. The current list I've been messing with, which I'm going to bring to Adepticon, is it's got 11 regiments and 3 hordes of rabble. It's mostly unlocking all those heroes and stuff like that, and because I had to paint a couple extra goblin units, I just at this point I don't want to break up more hordes. Like there's potentiality to be able to pull in a couple of more drops even with goblins if you did more regiments, but I do kind of like having a few hordes in there. And like with Twilight Kin and Basileans, like I definitely really like or a few of the hordes for unlocking for both the Fleet Wardens and the I'm blanking on the other one, but the 2 basic elf big units. Having hordes of those have some really nice staying power and some kickback power for your unlocks, and that extra unit strength for the more elite armies. I definitely like the hordes a little bit more with the more elite armies, whereas like with like goblins and Ratkin, I feel like a lot of times you're trying to unlock stuff more than put the bigger hordes on the table. But
yeah, I mean, if you're trying to get 4 trombones, that requires 2 battalions, right? But 31 unit strength is what you just said, right? And that's before anything above the rabble. So I mean, that's a lot of unit strength. So
the list is running 46 unit strength right now. So yeah,
and there's some scenarios where I think somebody would have a very difficult time chewing through that much unit strength to make it work, right? So yeah, interesting. Any other standouts from the list or from the game itself? You mentioned shooting, you mentioned sticky combat. How are you finding the movement phase where we've got the extra pivots?
Oh, I really like it a lot. I think it's open. It opens up the game and makes it a little bit more dynamic. It allows you to recover from mistakes a little bit better, which I think is nice. And then it also kind of gives you more options and more threat range. So I definitely am liking the more dynamic movement a lot.
I think it makes it more aggressive in the sense of that it speeds the game up a little bit. That in 30.5 where you have like maybe a slow army and you're just moving up a little bit at regular speed and then taking your pivot to try to get your battle lines, but now you're like at the double with a pivot, and you're like maybe we're seeing the battle lines engage a turn earlier than we may have seen before. And I don't know, it's still early days for me. I'm still feeling through it, but it definitely the games are bloodier, right? It's really easy to get into combat, and then once you're there, you're stuck, right? Unless you want to withdraw, which isn't necessarily the best thing in the world. So, I mean, maybe talk a little bit about what armies you're playing. What armies are you seeing against you on the table?
I've been playing against Orcs and Northern Alliance a lot so far. That's what Frank and Alec are playing, which are where I've gotten most of my games in. So I've been fighting the green tide with the big Orc command and dealing with their massive combat output and everything. They're definitely gonna delete things if you've definitely got to watch the orc horde thing. If anything you don't want to lose, you've got to be careful because they'll take stuff off the table fast.
Yeah. Yeah, Northern Alliance is pretty good too. It's a very good combined arms list. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to completely lean into the shooting, they have, because if you wanted to do that, they can do that as well. Whether
Yep.
the pack hunters and even the ice elementals are, you got to be careful because having them stand on still is a problem, right? Because you can surge them in, it doesn't count as movement, so it's like, oh,
Yep.
that's a problem. So, but yeah, well, good. Is your area kind of been very receptive to fourth edition, or is it sort of put light a match under your guys' butt and get you out there playing a lot, or what's been the general response in northern Minnesota to fourth edition?
Yeah, early on, we'd kind of faded a little bit, and some of our people have kind of moved away and had kids and different things like that. So we're in a little bit of a lull. And then at the end of 3.5, it's a little hard to kind of bring new players in with the whole thing of like, hey, come try this game, and there's going to be completely new rules in 4 months. So it's now that we're through that, kind of back into getting new players that either had only played a few games of third or hadn't played at all, and we've been talking and showing a lot of them stuff and getting them ready to play as well. And then, of course, kind of the core regulars of Blake's Water kind of back into it and roaring to go on fourth edition. So yeah, I think it's going to be good to have turned the page.
Have you got Mr. Capster to try a game of fourth yet?
Yeah, he just played Frank's Orcs just last Sunday. In fact, we got him back in, and he's going to be doing a few more games here again soon
Fantastic.
as he gets ready. And he actually signed up for the 1 day, so he got a challenge from Jeff Shilkin and decided to play in the tournament after Shilkin challenged him before he even signed up, and then he decided to sign up. So Chris will be back on the horse again for the 1 day.
That's fantastic. And talk about someone that is on the fourth edition bandwagon. Shilkin is a big fan. Two thumbs up from that guy. He's been playing the crap out of the game, trying lots of different armies. And I think, it's been fun for me as well, diving in, playing some of my old armies in a new way. Again, very poorly, but still, it's been fun just to play it. In some phases, it feels almost like a different game, even though at its core, it still feels like Kings of War. But there's just the combat and the movement. It's turned up to 11, as they would say. So, well, you do have a 1 day coming up in northern Minnesota, right?
Yep, I am launching what I'm calling the Battle for Lake Swat, which is going to be kind of a narrative campaign. It's or not campaign, narrative 1 day. It's definitely competitive and battle. The kind of your standard 1 day from that, but there's a big narrative element where I'm going to have theme boards, and there's going to be awards for people basically having stories of their army that happen during the course of the battle on the themed theme boards and things like that. So it's like set in northern Basileia, which is kind of where the whole Lake Swat theme thing we've had for the last few years have been. And then we've got 8 theme boards: Lord Eldon's Manor, the Docks of Dragonport, which is the game store I used to own, Forests of Capsner, everybody recognizes who that's named after, and Ruins of Castle Hammer, the Hibbig Tundra Crypts, the Berglund Grove, Frank's Gates, and the Market Red Feather. So those are kind of our theme boards that are all based around various Lake Swat members who've been involved in the group for a long time, and or armies and various iconic game stores and things that have been important to our gaming club for a while. And then there'll be a little bit of a story around each one of these boards that we'll be setting up. And then when people come and play, they'll have an opportunity to talk about either characters or units that perform admirably or horribly in the various games, to kind of do some notes that they submit. And then we'll be giving out prizes for narrative prizes as well. So,
and people might not remember because you guys have been around a long time, but Lake SWAT is actually an acronym, right? SWATT, which stands for what?
strategic wargaming and tabletop tactics. And then
Got
like,
it.
of course,
Got it.
like it's yeah. So yeah.
Okay. And you had a podcast at one time. Whatever happened with that, Donnie? We haven't heard from you guys in a long time.
Yeah, it's possible it could get back in at one point, but yeah, it's been a little bit of a ebb and flow between whether it was me or Chris. Chris obviously had started the podcast with Michelle and Andrew way back in the day, and then they had run with it for a long time, and then we kind of had blended in me, and then I sort of took it over for a while, but just sort of kind of have gotten busy with life. So at some point, we might be back into recording and doing that again, but probably not in the immediate near future. But yeah, it definitely is always fun doing the podcast and getting together. But as you know, with it, it's very much a logistical thing, and it's easy once you get out of it.
Yeah, it's not. And once you get out of it, you found all that extra time that you didn't know you had. But you guys did an episode like 5 years ago. It would be amazing though, out of the blue, like the Beer Face guys do that every once in a while. They'll put an episode out, and I'm like, these chuckleheads still play Kings of War? I didn't even know. It's funny when you see people that come out of the ether or out of the darkness. And so we'll look for that one time when you don't tell anybody you're coming, but just don't even tell anybody. Just show up one time and have it hit the podcast feeds, and we'll be very excited. What are the dates of your event?
The one day is going to be April 19th, which is a Sunday, and it's going to be at the Moose Lodge in Proctor, which we've held some Lady of the Lake events and one-day events at before, just a little bit south of Duluth here. So that's where that's going to be. And then, of course, the Lady of the Lake GT is going to be going on in August again at Excalibur Con, which will be August 15th and 16th. And Mantic is actually going to be there with a booth at Excalibur Con this year.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And there's over 100 vendors again, between artists and the cosplays, players and actors and all kinds of things that show up for that. I mean, last year we had Star Wars actors and the Star Wars Stormtrooper Legion, and a lot of other groups of people have shown up for the cosplay as well as the other gaming and stuff. And it's becoming a really large convention down at the Deck Convention Center. So we'll be doing that again. And then both of those events will be 2,500 points. So the one day is just kind of a straight standard 2,500 point event, the Battle for Lake Swat. And then Lady of the Lake will be doing the night character again, as well as 2,500 points when we get that going in August.
And your single event, is that 4 days or 4 games in one day?
It's going to be a 3-day, one day, and then we've got scenarios set for it. So we're actually playing Pieces of 8, Stockpile, and Pillage, so people know in advance. And the scoring is basically straightforward. It's straightforward as you'll be. Basically, it's win, loss, draw, and then the tiebreaker will be how many objectives you score. So 2 of the scenarios, there's seven possible points in one. There's 8 you can score. So just win, loss, draw, and then that gets broken by objectives. So the scoring and the tabulation for being able to do the matchups will be super fast, and then we'll throw up a narrative at the end of the event. We'll be kind of combining all that information, and then actually putting out kind of a blog/website sort of post that basically tells the battles of the Lake Swat one day. That will be an ongoing kind of narrative thing, inspired sort of by like Iowa GT and that sort of thing that they do with the map GT out there.
And you guys in northern Minnesota have, especially Lady of the Lake, you have been using the alternate deployment schemes that maybe carried over from Warhammer for a long time. So the stuff that's now in 4th edition is old hat to you guys, like meeting engagement, right? So are you guys trying those and going to be using some of those alternate deployments that are in the Kings of War 4th edition?
I think for Lady of the Lake, we're going to actually end up limiting it to standard deployment, because we do the weird thing with Lady of the Lake where we actually have 2 scenarios that get played. So you basically, Lady of the Lake is unique in the fact that people get a list of scenarios to choose from, and then each player actually picks one of those scenarios each game to play, and then they can't use it again during the tournament. But basically, and then you play 2 scenarios. So basically, one player picks Dominate, one player picks Control, and then you play Dominate and Control at the same time. And then there's bonus points for how your Knight special character scores. So it's a very unique strategic event from that standpoint, where you have an opportunity to pick scenarios that might benefit you or hinder your opponent more based on the matchup when you show up. And you're playing multiple scenarios at the same time. And so it definitely plays a lot different than a lot of your standard Kings of War tournaments because of that.
Have you tried it, like the I don't know what it's called, where you play long ways down the table? Have you tried that deployment scheme yet?
Yeah, we've done all three of them in our various games. We've been just playing random, so we've played all three deployments. And that long way or short table edge, however you want to call it, we typically refer to it as short table edge. But yeah, long way, they basically where you flip the board the opposite direction. Bug Eater has been doing that for years, so I've practiced that every single year because Bug Eater always runs that scenario, or even in 3.5 they always would run that scenario for one of their rounds every year. And then the diagonal one, they also have typically done one of their scenarios there too. So like for getting ready for Bug Eater, I've played those scenarios a lot, and as you said, that kind of harkens back to the Warhammer Fantasy days when scenarios were a lot crazier, as you probably remember from the various editions of Warhammer. Like scenarios were a little more out there in the Warhammer days, where they're a little bit more strategic and balance based in Kings of War, which, depending on what you're looking for, it's it's just different flavors of soup. But it was definitely way more chaotic in the Warhammer days.
I just remember Watchtower, and only certain unit types could go into the Watchtower, so it would be a building that you had to go in and defend. Mm-hmm. And and I remember playing against somebody that had all chariots or something, and chariots couldn't disembark to go into the thing. So you just basically get in the tower and you just automatically win. Yeah, they had that one. And wasn't there one where I don't remember what it was called, but there was almost like specific characters, maybe like a banner bearer and a commander, and they were worth so many points. But if you lost enough, you just auto lose. I forgot what was that called.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the name of it, but I actually had a crazy game with that where I was actually playing Frank one time with my undead and fighting against his goblins. And yeah, it was one of the things where it was like, yeah, it's your characters, your banner bearers, and then yeah, it was a certain number of points. And then once you fell below the threshold, you automatically lost. But I actually had a game where I flew up with Terrorgeist, and he had most of all that stuff in one unit, and I broke that unit before he moved, so I actually won before he even moved the game. And we actually had a tournament game end before two other tables were even done deploying in the tournament. And so, yeah, that was a very wonky scenario, and me and Frank just we wrote up the score sheets and turned them in, and then just played the rest of the game for fun, just like that hadn't happened after the actual result. But yeah, it was literally finished our game before Chris and Alec and a couple of other tables that were playing in the same tournament had even finished deploying. It was such a bizarre scenario.
It's funny though, the farther we are removed from that, I still kind of liked it, right? I don't know, it's weird. It's almost like a masochistic thing. I'm like, it was fun back then, but hindsight's 2020, and the farther we get away, the more I can have nostalgia for that. Because in the moment, I don't remember having, there were times I was like, what the hell is this stupid scenario? Doesn't make any sense. So, yeah.
Well, even going back further to 6th edition, when TOs would create their own custom scenarios, you'd get random ones where it'd be every double is a miscast, and you'd have a magic casting heavy army, and then all of a sudden there's a 1 in 6 chance of you miscasting every time you cast a spell. So yeah, there was definitely some craziness back then, and obviously from a competitive standpoint, it's not as balanced, but yeah, it definitely led to some really insane stories between that and the Common Cassadora and some of the other insanity of the Warhammer Fantasy days. But I do remember it fondly, despite the craziness.
Obviously, playing in northern Minnesota, I'm sure you hit Wapaka and some of those famous upper Midwest tournaments, right?
Yep. Yeah, I played in Wagpaka before it was Wagpaka, even back when.
The Northern, was it? Now, wasn't the Northern GT, was it?
At one point they did call it the Northern GT, okay. and then it turned into Wagpaka. It was the North Star, is what it was called. Yeah,
North Star. That's it.
And then the Minnesota tournament actually took that name over and did that for a while too, as a second incarnation of North Star. And so yeah, I played in a bunch of those, Dave Witek, and I think I met you, but I didn't actually remember you until later.
I'm trying to remember if we may have played at one point too at Wapaka, because I used to go every year because it was just like where I was from. We didn't have in Memphis. We didn't really have the big. Well, we had the hillbilly, but we didn't have. Other than that, we didn't really have really big fun events like Wapaka, where it was really much more than just the game, right? It was really the social aspect, and
for sure.
the hobby was a huge piece of it. And of course, there's nothing like going into the middle of central Wisconsin in January, right? It's, come on, not the brightest thing in the world we've ever done. But for you guys, that's just January. But for me, it wasn't just January. It was, sketchy driving on the roads, and
And then the Handsome Point Boys, and of course their podcast that they did, and
Point Hammer.
Warhammer did.
Yeah, Joe
Point
Rogers and the Bear, was it Ryan Golke and Johnny Hastings, right? The three of them. That was a great show. I used to love watching it. Not safe for
Mike
work.
Butcher,
yeah, and Mike Butcher. Yeah. It was those great guys. And I see Joe every once in a while. I saw him the last couple of years at Adepticon. He does a lot of the Saga stuff. So on that note, let's turn it to Adepticon. Are you excited about Adepticon?
I am, yeah. After having missed last year, it's going to be nice to get back in and see the whole crowd again and get playing. I'm going to get in on Thursday. Not going to quite make the Champions tournament like I wanted to, but I'll be playing in the team tournament and then the GT, of course, and kind of hanging out with everybody. So should be a good time. And I think me and Travis Tim are going to try to get a game in Thursday and break our record.
Goblin off?
Yeah. Well, me and Travis Tim have the world record, as far as I'm aware, of the most drops for a 2,300 point game ever at 49 between two factions. And it looks like if we play this year, we'll break that and have like 53 drops between our two armies. So it's like the largest drop games of 2,300 Kings of War anywhere in the world.
So you're bringing goblins to Adepticon. Who's coming down with you?
I'll be going by myself because everybody else has to kind of travel separately. But Jesse Berglund from Lake Swat is going to be coming up from the Twin Cities, and then Alec and Frank are coming up on Friday. And then I'll be rooming with Adam Marcarella from Iowa, as well as Sean Vilmont from Omaha. So they'll be staying with me and Jesse, and then coming in. So we'll be kind of all going in. But with my travel schedule and going in a little earlier for the team tournament, I've got a solo drive it, but it's only like 6 hours for me, so it's not that far of a drive. So not too bad.
Well, and let's just be honest, driving's your thing.
Yep. 6 hours is half of a long weekend shift for me as an Uber driver.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think at one point you were definitely the most traveled Kings of War player in the country.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, I'm the only person to have gone to 10 Kings of War GTs in a calendar year, and I did it 2 years in a row, as well as
all by car.
1 days. Yep, all by car. Yeah.
Refresh my memory. Did you drive to Seattle?
I did. Yep, I picked you up.
Yeah, right. You because I flew in. There's no way I'm driving. Now, I will say I made poor life choices last year at Masters. We drove to Reno. Not the smartest thing I've ever done in my life, but it is what it is. I'm really excited to see how things shape up at Adepticon. I think it's going to be a great event. Sounds like they have a good turnout, and I think you have not been to the new facility, right? You haven't been to Adepticon yet since it's moved to Milwaukee, right?
Yeah, just the second year, and I missed last year, so this would be the first time. I think I've been to the facility before, but I was trying to remember what I would have been to it for, but not for a wargaming event anyway.
Yeah, they have the Midwest Gaming Expo there. There's a lot of big conventions that are at the Bard Center. It's pretty legendary. Your event is April
19th for the 1 day, and then August for the Battle for Lake Swat, and then of course Lady Lake is August 15th and 16th. Of course, camping and everything at Chris's is normal with all that party. But those are the two big Lake Swats events coming up, and then of course. We're not hosting it, but Masters is in Minnesota, so the Twin Cities folks are doing that. So we'll be helping out and doing the Masters this summer in July in Minneapolis. So
you guys are spoiled. You'll just be able to, drive just a couple hours, right? Or how far is Minneapolis? How far is Minneapolis from Duluth?
Like the core part of the city is about 2.5. Yeah, it's about 2 hours.
Okay.
So to start getting into the suburbs, but it's a short little jaunt for sure.
For sure, that's the closest Masters ever will be to you guys, right? Unless you decide to host it in Duluth.
Yeah, no doubt. And Duluth would be awesome to host it, but unfortunately, logistically wise, not being able to fly directly into Duluth makes Duluth a tough site for an international one, or not international.
Right, one of those airports you have to fly, get a connecting flight to there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not unlike CWA. Was it Central Wisconsin Airport? Well, that's where I would fly in to go to Waupaca, which is in not Stevens Point. What is it in? It's in or was in. I don't remember now.
It's right next to Stevens Point. It's I'm blanking on that too. But But
anyways, I'm flying in the middle of nowhere. But I had to go. Usually fly to Minneapolis and then back down to Wisconsin on a puddle jumper. So
yeah, for sure.
Well, awesome. I appreciate you taking the time chatting with us about your 4th edition impressions and kind of seeing where things are going to end up. And best of luck with the one day. That's going to be awesome. Now, Adepticon's only like, 10 days away?
It's a little more than that. It's a little over 2 weeks.
Is it like the 25th or something? Is that right?
It'd be, the 25th. So we're just a smidge over. Well, I guess it is less than 2 weeks to the beginning of it. I guess it's depending. I was thinking of the GT itself, but you're right. The Adepticon does start in like 12 days.
Are you all painted? Everything's ready to go?
Yep. Yeah, I did have to paint 3 more units from my goblins.
How many goblins did you have to paint for that army? Because, I'm just doing the math here. 11 regiments and 3 hordes?
Yep. And then,
that's a lot of goblins.
Yeah, I had to paint 3 more regiments than what I had, but I did have 25 goblins that I brought to Masters a few years ago. That was actually more than full model count. As far as I'm aware, it was the only more than full model count fully mantic goblin army in the world. Because, it was... some of those rabble had like 21, 22 on it rather than the 20.
Yeah, if you're trying to prove that you're a crazy person, I think you've already proven that a couple times over, right? I think
I literally heard that comment like three different times at Masters that year with people who had looked at it.
Well, Donny, I appreciate you taking the time and chatting with us, and best of luck at Adepticon. You have to come back on after you win it. You're gonna play Travis Chim in a pickup game, right? And you're gonna vanquish him. You're gonna throw him off. And he's going to be thinking about his life choices, and then you're just going to pound him in the ground when it counts for real.
Should be a great time, and I can't wait to see you guys there too.
Well, until next time,
keep counting.
I should say, I should say, if I didn't frick it up, I should say, well, I think that's going to do us tonight. And until next time, keep countercharging.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Countercharge. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at counterchargepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at countercharge15, or by commenting on the Countercharge Kings of War podcast Facebook group. If you enjoy the show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Until next time, keep countercharging. Music is a composition of Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons.